Back to my channel. I'm Meg James, your Move to Spain mom. I changed my name from Move to Spain coach to Move to Spain mom because I just want to be here to be a resource to you as a mom who's gone through the move and can answer your questions, the questions that you have for you and your family. And so I want to get right into episode 14 today, Catorce. Today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of living in the city. Now listen, we have both extremes covered. In the US, we own a finca, a small farm on 3 acres in Greenville, South Carolina. And here in Madrid, we live on the 5th floor of an apartment complex in the city, and with no backyard, with a puppy. We take the elevator up and down all day to go to school, to take the dog out, and it's just such a different experience. So let's unpack answering your questions, the pros and cons of city life. Is it all that it's cracked up to be? Was there anything I would change? Would I prefer to live somewhere else in Spain? Let's see. Okay, so let's just get right into it and then I'll answer all of these additional questions. So there are so many different pros and cons on this topic. This is such a hard one for me to commit to. Now, I love so much about the city lifestyle, and I didn't think that we would. We honestly thought we would come and just live in the city for a year and go right back to our farmhouse in South Carolina. But now that we're in our 2nd year living in Madrid, Spain, I'll tell you some of the positives. The major pros to me are being able to walk places. I love walking every day and getting fresh groceries. I love just getting to walk to the store if I forget one thing, walking to the vet, walking to our eye doctor, dentist, our paddle lessons for Landon, just everything is walkable in our little area of Valdebebas. And so I love that after school, the only thing I know I'm gonna be driving to that day is taking the kids to school, and I get to just chill in our neighborhood. And I really like the less car culture. Logan and I share one car here on a car subscription, and it's perfect for us because not every day do we even need to have a car, especially if we don't have school that day or in the summer. And so I love the walkability. In the city, I also just love the opportunities that we have to go to other locations throughout Europe and back to the US. We just went for Thanksgiving to the US to see family, and it's so easy to go from a major city like Madrid to fly back to the US direct in the New York area. It was like 7 hours. It was just so doable. And so had we moved to somewhere like Palencia or Galicia or an island in Spain, it would have been so much harder for us to get back. And so that's another huge advantage to me. Now, from a con perspective, I do miss having a backyard. I miss the ability to just say, go outside and play, go practice your basketball, go play baseball, go outside and throw the ball around. And you can do that in our urba, and they do play after school, especially in the spring and summer and when it's warmer with friends. But it's a little bit different just to open your back door and go right into your backyard. And same with our dog. We have a 10-month-old puppy, a Cocker Spaniel named Nacho. And so we go up and down all day to take him out on the elevator to use the restroom. And it would have been just so much easier if we opened the back door and let him right out to our farm. And so I would say that it is harder day to day to live without having a backyard right at our ease, right? And so that is a definite con in our situation. So let me get into your questions because I want to know what you want to know about city life. And then if you have any other questions, just leave them in the comments, and I'd love to address what city life in Madrid is like for me and my family. And so the first one is, can you take your dog to a cafe and restaurant? And the answer is yes. Spain is such a friendly environment to sit outside. Even in the winter, there's heaters and you see people sitting outside year round. In fact, it's almost hard sometimes, especially in good weather, to find a seat outside. People don't want to be inside. And so dogs are more than welcome. We take Nacho to his namesake, El Garnacho, the restaurant in Valdebebas, and we take him whenever we can to restaurants. So absolutely yes, dogs can come with you outside in the city. Someone said, I heard it's impossible to rent an apartment in Madrid. Is this true? And the truth of the matter is, having lived for 1 month in Tenerife, Spain, I can compare the experiences and say, yes, it's much easier to find a rental or a longer term leased apartment in a non-major city like Madrid. And so if you go on something like Idealista and you're searching for where you want to live in Madrid, you might be excited and find an apartment that interests you, only to find out it's gone 5 minutes later, or they never call you back, or you just can't secure anyone on the line, and so you just give up on it. It's a frustrating process. And so I will admit and say, yes, it's very hard to find a rental to live in or even an Airbnb in Madrid, and I would put that on the con list, that it's probably easier to live somewhere else in Spain than Madrid for that reason. The next thing is Do the kids complain about having to walk everywhere, or have they embraced it? So we used to hike a lot in South Carolina. We were near a lot of the North Carolina mountains, and we have one son who will hike and one Griffin who will not. And so they did not a fair amount of walking every day, but on the weekends or when we did hike, it was longer walks. It was like 3-mile hike, and Griffin hates that. Now, day to day, the walking to stores, they love, and they're so used to it. They also have electric scooters, which they can ride to stores, and they can follow us if we decide to do a longer walk with Nacho. And so yes, I would say they absolutely have embraced the longer walking kind of day to day instead of just like the long hikes in the weekends. They love walking places, walking to meet their friends, and we just don't have to get in the car as much, and they really enjoy that too. The next question is, do you feel like you spend less time outside now that you're in the city, or it takes more effort to do so? And I think yes. You know, in the summer, our urbanization, our apartment complex does have a pool. It has a basketball court. It has a football field. I mean, it has things that the boys can do outside. And a lot of the neighborhood kids go outside and play. But it's just different when you have your own farm, and the boys had ATVs, like I said, and they were just always outside. And so I think, especially with colder weather in Madrid, because Madrid does have all 4 seasons and it gets pretty cold here in the winter, we're definitely inside more, watching movies. It's darker earlier. But normally in the summer, it's probably about equal because the sun is setting so late. I mean, it's sometimes till 11 p.m. that the sun is still out. So I feel like we're out a decent amount, but definitely less than if you just could walk outside, right? It takes more effort to get outside, and we try to keep the kids off tech and keeping them outside, but it is a little bit harder, especially in cold weather in an apartment. The next question is, well, don't you feel like it would be easier to connect with locals if you moved to a small town? And the answer is, I'm sure, yeah. We lived in a small town in Tenerife for the month, and Tenerife is more of an area that has more British expats and English speaking, so it's hard to compare to Madrid suburbs, which is very Spanish speaking. But I could see how being part of a community or a small town definitely helps you with the language, helps you connect. And our experiences here in Valdebebas, although it's not a tiny city, it is an area or a suburb of Madrid. And just by joining things local, like our local football team, going to the farmer's market, we start to feel like a local. I remember we went to the farmer's market in October, and we all looked at each other because we ran into multiple people and said, oh, it feels like home here, right? So I could see how choosing an area of Madrid versus Madrid Centro, like the main downtown area, would make it a little easier to connect with people. So I would say yes. And we do have on our hearts the option to maybe move north in Madrid, closer to their school in Tres Cantos, and there's very small towns there like Miraflores de la Sierra, Tres Cantos, Comino Viejo, and those are very, very small towns, and so it's possible that may be in our future too. Someone wants to know, have you gotten used to not having the yard with the dog? What about dog parks and things like about that with the kids and such? And so, yeah, I mean, it's so different. We do have an open lot next to our apartment complex where the dogs go off leash and can run around. It's just kind of like a dirt lot. We also in Valdebebas are surrounded by many parks. So even though it is the city, we're around a lot of green areas. But I will be honest and say it just is different than having a backyard. And so as an American who's now in their 2nd year of living in Madrid, Spain, if you are someone who loves your backyard, gardening, we had chickens, as I said, I could see how it's a very hard transition, and it's very different. It's not impossible to get the dogs together with other dogs and to play and be outside more. It just takes more effort. So the next one wants to know about pet care options. And we have so many in the city. In fact, next to us, and probably on the pro list of living in the city compared to a small town, we have so many resources right at our doorstep. And so next to us in the apartment complex is Valdeperos, and I'll tag Gloria here. It's a pet sitting service that takes our dog, and actually Nacho gets to go on these amazing day trips into the fields and just run with other dogs, and wonderful service. And so yes, pet care options here are awesome. And I think because we're in Madrid or a major city, we just have endless options of that, and we're grateful for that. Someone wants to know, like, how many minutes, how long does it take to actually go to these places? And you would not want to know, especially if you are always driving in the car to go places. We are about a 20-second walk to the supermarket that I frequent, Supercore. We are probably about 5-minute walk to like 10 other supermarkets that you can walk to. I'm about a 2-minute walk to our veterinarian for Nacho, a 1-minute walk to a pharmacy. We are surrounded by restaurants, about 50 to 60 restaurants that we can walk to, sports bars that we watch the Real Madrid game at. bakeries that we can grab fresh things from. The boys' orthodontist is here. My dentist is here. Logan's eye doctor is here. And that's all under 5 minutes. And so we're very spoiled. The other side of Valdebebas is closer to a 20-minute walk, and we do that frequently, especially in the warmer months too, and try different restaurants. But even Griffin's football practice on Fridays is within a 15-minute walk of us. And so we're very spoiled to be in a walkable area of Madrid. And the last question is, do you take public transportation often? And the answer to that is actually no. So I've mentioned that we have rented a car here that Logan and I share through a Star Move, and I'll link it here if you're looking for a car subscription. We are not in an area of Madrid that is very connected to the public transportation, although I'm definitely not against the public transportation concept. We're just not connected to using it daily. And so we have a Renfe, a train option that takes us like on day trips or eventually through Madrid. It just takes double or triple the amount of time. We do not have a metro, which would be easier to get down to Centro. And really the only reason that I would want to take the public transportation at all would be to get into Centro to avoid parking and crowds and things. And it's just not as feasible. We do it a few times a year and we enjoy when we do it. But if you're looking to live a little bit more in the suburbs, like we are closer to La Moraleja and Alcobendas here in Madrid, we're probably going to need some form of transportation, like a car to get around with a family to do football practices and birthday parties and other things. It's just not trainable. So what is my biggest takeaway about living in the city versus our farm back in South Carolina? And for me, I think it's just the smallness and the coziness of it. And I've mentioned this in a previous YouTube video that we went from a 3,400 square foot farmhouse, which we still own, but we rent, to a closer to 1,200 square foot flat. And it's tiny. I mean, we are, as I said, on the 5th floor. We have this main family room space with this kitchen behind me. That is our entry door and our hallway. And then we go into our hallway with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, this is actually double the size of our first apartment here in Madrid. And for some people that may be a con, but for me and my family, it has been a huge pro. We have loved only buying what we need, minimizing our items. When something breaks, we get rid of it or replace it. We just don't have the space for a lot of things. And so I think that comes really well alongside city living, is that we prioritize our money, our time, our efforts to just keeping this little apartment stacked and clean with things that make us feel comfortable. And I've mentioned before that our boys never cleaned the house in the US. We had a house cleaner, like many people do in both Spain and the US, but because of this huge farm we were upkeeping, we had someone help us with the inside of our home. And now we, along with the boys, have our chores that we do. And so I think it's teaching the boys responsibility. We have a wonderful landlord that we rent from that speaks English, which is very hard to find here in Madrid, Spain specifically. And he's wonderful to work with. And we find the rent payment process very easy, just through Bizum and just the ways that you can pay through Spain, and just everything has worked really well here. And so we're hesitant to leave it just because, as I mentioned earlier, it can be really hard to find a place in Spain to rent, especially if you're not from Spain. And so that has been a pro to us. The smaller space, the ease of just kind of paying rent with this landlord has been awesome. And we have amenities near us that we love, like our CrossFit gym that is in the city of Madrid. We love having our school being 20 minutes away, because the drive hasn't been that bad for us. We love visiting Tres Cantos when we drop the kids off or pick them up. And so this location in Valdebebas and about 15-minute drives out of Centro Madrid and Valdebebas has been just a great fit for us. And will we always live in a city? I don't think so. And so here I am just enjoying my city years. And so if you have any other questions about city life in Madrid, please put them down here, especially those with kids that are just so interested in what it's like to live in a city. I'm happy to answer any of that. I have exciting news. Besides having my Instagram account where I share about our American families' lives in Spain, I also do coaching calls, which I've mentioned before, but now I'm starting a course. And so if you are someone who prefers these videos, which you may be because you're sitting here on YouTube, then I will send more information shortly so that you can get more information about a course and how you can look at all the content that I share in one spot on my coaching calls to make your move to Spain a little bit easier. So see you in next episode, and thanks for the time. Ciao.